Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining me on Cajun World Travels. Today, the topic is still Israel, but the topic is about 10 cultural differences in Israel. I do want to start out by saying that cultural differences are not a good or bad thing. They're just differences, right? They are things that are different from what we are used to in our everyday lives. And again, it doesn't make it good or bad, right or wrong. It's just different, and that's okay. So the things I talk about on this video are going to be my own opinions and my own cultural differences. Obviously, this will be different for everybody, but I can say a large majority of Americans will probably have similar cultural differences just because of our cultures. The first cultural difference: Israelis have large families, or at least large family gatherings. um, I just went to a Shabbat dinner recently, and to have 35, 40, 50 people is no big deal. Now, we do see that a little bit more in certain areas in the US, but it doesn't happen quite as often as it used to be, right? It's the majority is not that way anymore. And again, good or bad, I mean, you can make that decision for yourself. But not only that, I went to a friend of mine, an Israeli friend of mine. He just had a little girl, so they were celebrating the birth of their little girl. And he invited me, and he told me it's going to be a really small party, so don't worry. And of course, I get there, and there's 100 to 200 people, and I'm like, "This is a small party?" And he's like, "Yeah, these are my folks, my family from both sides." And 100 to 200 people, it's like, to me, it was not overwhelming, but it was like, holy cow, right? This is a lot different. So culturally, they have large families, large gatherings, and it's normal, right? It's for us, having people over for dinner and 20 people, and that's a pretty good size. So culturally, that's a big difference. The second cultural difference, and in no particular order, there's not the first ones are worse or anything like that, or good or bad, but the second cultural difference is driving. Israelis are very aggressive drivers, and if you don't assimilate and at least get aggressive a little bit, you'll never get where you need to get, and you will cause accidents, honestly. um, it's a cultural thing, and I don't blame actually the Israeli people for that. I more blame the government, to be honest with you, because if you think about it, they have similar laws to what we do in the US, but law enforcement doesn't enforce it. And whether that's bureaucracy, red tape, um, police not doing their job, who knows? It's their culture, right? So again, who am I to complain about it? But um, it is different. I've been here almost 2 years, and I've only seen two people pulled over. And one of them happened to be an American, of course, right? So um, it's very rare that you see them giving tickets, pulling people over. They, Israelis pretty much park wherever they want, right? They park on the curbs. Um, I talked about this in my previous video, but it's normal. Again, they don't see anything wrong with it. Um, Especially during Shabbat, right? So during Shabbat, during the weekend, basically, and I'll get into Shabbat. That's a cultural difference as well. But they will back right onto the curb, and they will line that whole curb down the entire street. So there is no longer a walkway or a walk path, which to us in the West is very strange. It's very disrespectful or uncourteous, because as you have, you know, kids or anybody really, but older people, wheelchairs that are trying to access the walk paths, and they can't do it, and they have to go out into the road around these vehicles. So again, to us, it's like, wow, and we would call the tow truck or whatever. But here, it's culturally accepted, and it's the norm. So again, just something different. And honestly, out of all the things I talk about today, this is one that has really frustrated me the most. Again, I don't take it personal because I understand it's a cultural thing, but this is one that took me a while to get used to and not to get frustrated with it. Um, so yeah, that's number two. And of course, number three is aggressive driving, very aggressive driving. And I know I covered it in number two, so I kind of stole the thunder out of that one. But basically, um, you gotta you can still drive somewhat defensively. As soon as you pass someone, get over into the right lane. And thank goodness, Israelis, they drive on the same side of the road as we do in the U.S. So it definitely makes it a lot easier for us. I know living in Singapore and things like that, that was difficult, and I even didn't want to drive most of the time. So that's nice. But again, you can drive defensively, but still aggressively in some ways. Otherwise, you will cause accidents, and again, you'll never get to where you want to get, and you'll have a lot of frustrations with people honking at you consistently, flashing their brights at you all the time, all that stuff. I mean, it's normal here it's a little bit different. There is no yellow. So here there's red and yellow, or excuse me, green, red, and yellow, but the way it works is a little bit different. So as you're driving and you're going through a light, it will not turn yellow to tell you to slow down. It'll blink green 3 times, which can be hard to see sometimes, with the sun and stuff. But so it'll blink 3 times and then turn red. And that's where you stop, obviously. But to go again, it goes from red, stays red, but it has a yellow light that comes on under the red. And pretty much that's where everybody takes off. They don't wait for the green light. So it goes red, and then as soon as it's good for you, it'll turn yellow underneath, and then it'll turn green. But everybody takes off at yellow and red together. And if you don't take off, then you will get honked at, and people will not be happy with you. So again, those are the little things that you have to do to assimilate and to make life a little bit easier. There's nothing unsafe about it. It's just different. All right, that leads us to the cultural difference number 4, and that is punctuality. And, well, let's just face it, there is no punctuality in Israel. That is not a thing. If you think that you are going to set up meetings and everyone will be on time and it'll start on time and end on time, that's just not reality. Now, I will say it is reality for us. So we're over here on a construction project, managing a construction project. And so we get to set the rules for our project, of course. So we demand punctuality because that's the only way we can stay on schedule and get our job done. And so Israelis, they've got to conform to it, and they have, right? They're very respectful for that. But in their culture, when we first got here, we were setting up meetings to find vendors and find workers and things like that, interviews. That was a little difficult because we say 7 a.m. and people are showing up at 7:15, and then they got to grab their cup of coffee. Excuse me. Got to grab a cup of coffee, have a good chat about the weekend, and then maybe we'll start at 7:30. So that is the norm here. That's the culture here. So get used to that. Again, for us, we're very lucky because we can dictate that to some extent when it comes to our on-site meetings, our on-site project meetings. But basically, off-site, or if it wasn't related to work, there is no punctuality. So I mean, I've been told, hey, let's come and eat, and let's meet at 5:30, and hey, where is everybody? Oh, we're almost there, right? That is the norm. And I'm one of those people that I would rather be an hour early than a minute late. So if they say 5, I'm there at 4:30, right? So I'm taking my time to get there. Maybe I'll fuel up with some fuel, just hang out a little bit, relax, and 4:45, 4:50, I'm walking to the door, but there's nobody there. And that is the norm. That is truly the norm. So if you are going to be visiting or living in Israel, setting up meetings or even just get together with friends or whatever, expect that. And again, no disrespect, it's just culture. All right, cultural difference number 5, personal space. So personal space is it's very different here. When I first got here, I was a bit shocked because people would come right up to your face and talk to you. And obviously, most people know, I mean, I guess not obviously, but a lot of people know that Israelis, their language is a bit aggressive. It's not quite like some of them, but it is a little more aggressive than the U.S. We're more laid back in our tone, our volume. And the Israelis, I learned quickly, they didn't mean anything by it. It's just their culture. They get close to each other, talk to each other. So for me, I learned that what I call the shuffle. And whenever someone would get really close to me, first of all, I'd shake their hand, and then I would extend my arm, and that would bring them almost an arm's distance away, right? They don't have that arm's distance. So, and if that didn't work, I'd give them a little pat on the shoulder and then extend my arm out, and that gives me a little bit of space. But again, there's no disrespect. It's just their culture. But it does take some getting used to. And I know especially for us in the U.S., because we see that as disrespect. And just invading your personal space. So that is another cultural difference. Number 6, cultural difference. It has to do with time, but not punctuality. This has to do with time in the reference to store hours, basically when things are open and closed, etc. So here, don't expect to go down to the local coffee shop and have your morning Joe at 6 in the morning, 5, 7, anything like that. Now, I will say there are a few shops that you can find open here and there, but it's very rare. And most places don't open until at least 9, if not 10. You won't be able to go get a decent meal until then. There are some cafes that open earlier in certain areas. You'll have to really look for them though. They're not. It's nothing like the U.S. There is no drive-through Starbucks or CC's Coffee, or whatever, Dutch, whatever it may be. They do have something called Aroma, which would be similar to like a Starbucks or something, but again, they don't open until you're long gone to work. So that is something that's different. Some of your butcher shops may open a little bit earlier. I do find a couple, or I should say one. I have a butcher shop that, it opens at 9 a.m., which is pretty early for them. Usually it's 10 or 11, but I do have a mini store or mini mart pretty close to the house that on the weekdays it opens at 7 a.m., which I was very surprised. But most of your larger normal stores or grocery stores, they don't open till later. So you got to get used to that and plan ahead for that. All right, cultural difference number 7, meal times. So in the U.S., I guess I can only speak for myself, but I would imagine many Americans don't eat breakfast in the morning. We're on the run. We get up early, grab a cup of coffee, maybe a donut or maybe something, or we can stop by one of those little donut stores or coffee shops, Circle K or whatever, and pick something up. So we do have that, which they don't here. But here, meal times are a lot different. So their work hours, like as I told you before, the with the punctuality deal. So their hours are a little different. So they do tend to get up later, and I'm not talking about from the construction side. Obviously, I get up at 3:30 in the morning, and I'm at work by 4:30. Work a lot of hours. We all do, but we're here to do that specific task, right? We're consulting or we're managing this project. But just the normal Israeli economy, they typically are up later, and they also go to bed later. So their meal times are different. When they say you're welcome to come have dinner, I'm expecting dinner at 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. Maybe 6 p.m. Oh no, dinner would be 9, 10, 11 p.m. So the restaurants are not even booming until at least 10, 11 o'clock at night. At 5, 6, 7, now you can go in there and there's nobody there, which is great for some of us, right? But yeah, that is the culture. They eat late, but they also go to bed late, obviously, and then they wake up late as a general Israeli culture. Again, obviously, there's jobs that they do have to get up early and things like that. So don't get me wrong, but just if someone invites you and they work, they don't work like in a construction or something like that, you're gonna have late dinners. That is the norm. All right, cultural difference number 8. Now this one is foods, and in general, it's more of the meals, right? The courses of the meals and stuff like that. Obviously, the Israelis have their own food types and food styles and stuff, and it's actually delicious. Shawarma is my favorite. That's why I have this belly. That's not why, but it doesn't help. Um, but yeah, shawarma is amazing. Falafel, I do enjoy the falafel, but only certain ways when it's really crispy and smaller. I'm not a big fan though, but there's all kinds of good food here. Amazing food, lots of good spices. They love spices. Um, I think the biggest difference is how they serve a meal. So in the US, the meat is the meal. That's the star of the meal, right? So if you order a steak, well, you're going to get your steak, your potato, your vegetables all together on one plate. You'll probably get your salad if you ordered it beforehand, so you can eat a little bit of that. But sometimes it'll come with it. In Israel, it is a lot different. So when you sit down at a restaurant, like let's just say a meat house, you sit down and they bring you a bunch of different dishes, like literally 10 or 20 dishes of different things, from egg salad to corn mixed stuff to mushroom stuff to just all kinds of different vegetables they're delicious, don't get me wrong, with a lot of fresh bread. But you start scarfing some of that down and you're starting to get full already off of the bread and the goodies. Well, then the first um, meal, that's the only way I know how to explain it. The first meal comes out and it might be shredded beef or shredded chicken, deep fried in kind of a shell or maybe like a tortilla, I guess, that's kind of wrapped up. And you're thinking, wow, this is really good. And I'm thinking this is the meal. No, as soon as you're done with that, here comes your meal, which is steak, chicken breast, whatever, salmon, something like that. Um, well, you're still not done. When you're done with that, more meat comes out, and it may be goose, it may be it may a different style of beef or chicken. It's crazy. It's just so delicious, and that's why we struggle to lose any weight here. It is so good, but it is a lot, and it's amazing that I mean there's some overweight Israelis, just like there is anywhere in the world, right? But as a culture, they're in pretty good shape. Um, but with the size of the meals, that's like, oh my goodness, yeah. And then after that, of course, don't forget dessert. That comes out for sure. So that's a normal meal though. That's for us. That's like a 5 course meal, right? That's something you go to a nice sit-in restaurant and you're kind of whining and dining and you're really getting the good end. But here, that's just normal. You just go to a normal restaurant. That is it. Or you go to someone's house for Shabbat, and that's exactly the same thing. It's interesting. It's different and delicious. All right, cultural difference number 9 is the weekends. So in the U.S., the weekends are Saturday, Sunday. Um, right, that's normal for us. Uh, in Israel, it's Friday, Saturday. So Friday is our Saturday, and their um, Saturday is our Sunday. So a little bit different on the days, but also just on how they celebrate or what they do on the weekend. So they have Shabbat, which would be kind of similar to the Sabbath for us of faith, right? So the seventh day of rest. So it's very cool though. So when they do Shabbat, and it is still the norm here. It's not like in the U.S. where, yeah, there's still some people that do it. We have potlucks at church, and maybe we get together with the family for a meal, and it's only a few people here and there. And I say a few, maybe it's 10, 20, 30% of the U.S. I don't know, but the majority does not do that. So I think it's pretty cool. And again, to each their own, but I think it's pretty cool that Israel still holds on to those traditions, and they celebrate Shabbat together, and they bring family together, those very large families together that we talked about, in those large meals. But Shabbat is pretty cool. So there are some do's and don'ts on Shabbat, and I won't get too crazy into it, and because I don't want to butcher their traditions and stuff. But there are some that can't use electricity, and you go to some hotels or even apartments that might have multiple elevators, and one of them will be shut down for Shabbat, and the other one will be working for the people that aren't celebrating it. And it just depends on where you live too, right? Maybe in Tel Aviv, I don't know. I don't live in Tel Aviv, but maybe there they don't shut them down at all. I don't know. But down here in the south, Ashkelon, Ashdod, and then I'm here in Kiryat Gat, they do in some apartments and hotels and stuff. But it is pretty cool. So Shabbat starts Friday when the sun goes down, and then it goes until Saturday when the sun goes down. So it's basically 24 hours of the first night on Friday is what they call Shishi dinner, and they celebrate with family and have a nice meal together, and then they have Shabbat going through to the next day, and that's pretty much what it is. And so you get to really relax and recharge your battery on that Saturday, and then we start work here Sunday. So Sunday is Sunday here is like Monday in the U.S. So that is the ninth one, and that one's pretty cool for me. I really enjoy it. I've been to a number of Shabbat dinners, and I really enjoy the culture there. All right, the 10th cultural difference, and this one may be a little bit silly to some, but it's important to me. There is no country music in Israel. I have not found it. I could be wrong, and if someone knows of a country bar, a place that plays country, or anything that has to do with country music, please, down there in the comments, let me know, because I've been all over this country, from the south all the way to the north, up past Haifa, and obviously in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, up to Kinneret or Sea of Galilee, and everywhere I go, when I ask them to play country music, they look at me like I'm crazy or stupid. And to me, that's almost blasphemy to not have country music in a country. No, but seriously, it is different, right? Their music choices are more pop and mainstream. Not a whole lot of rap or some hip hop, but not a whole lot of hip hop. I guess, yeah, it's more dance, some techno, house, mainstream pop, and some alternative stuff like that. So, but no country. That's a shame. So that is one thing that really hurt me. No, but seriously, while I was at that celebration for my friends having a little girl, there was a DJ that was there, and he was running it off his computer. So he was able to find one song for me. I asked him to find some Brantley Gilbert, and he went ahead and rocked out Bottoms Up. Of course, nobody else knew what the heck was going on with his music. And they were looking around, and I was over there rocking out, singing, happy. So that was my one moment to shine. So I enjoyed it. But yeah, so that is a cultural difference for me, because I'm used to my country music. Obviously, I love all kinds of genres, so it's not an issue, but I just think that's it's kind of weird for me. So that is the 10th and final one for this episode. Well, I just want to say to all my viewers, subscribers, or just people new to my channel, appreciate you watching. Thank you for taking the time to learn a little bit about our cultural differences. Really, for me, in reality, cultural differences are pretty cool, right? If everybody's exactly like you, doing the same thing you're doing, it gets pretty boring, at least for me. So I enjoy different cultures and learning about different cultures. But we have to respect each other's difference in our cultures, opinions, etc. Right? So that is the good thing and the thing to keep in mind when you travel and you go to these different countries, no matter where it is. And I've traveled all over the world my whole career, from the Marine Corps into my main career that I had for almost 18 years, and then now into construction, moving around. Cultures are different, but we have to respect each other and be open-minded, right? Don't go over, for instance, to Israel with our mindset that, fast food and arm's distance, personal space, etc. Come over here with an open mind, knowing that things are going to be different, and we have to assimilate to some extent and enjoy it, make the best of it, learn from it. And there are things that we can take away from it. What's cool is the project we're working on. It's some expats, and pretty much all the expats are from the U.S. And we've hired local Israelis, and then we have some foreign labor. But the cool thing is we're all learning from each other, right? We are probably, and I don't mean this in an arrogant way, but we're probably a little more advanced when it comes to our safety requirements and things like that. But we are learning a lot from each other, right? We learn some different ways of doing things, and we're pretty darn good with what we do, and that's why we're here for this large client. But we're going to take away things from our Israeli counterparts as well, and we're going to be better people and better leaders when we travel back home and start other projects in the U.S. or anywhere. And I think the Israeli construction industry and just the individuals as a whole are going to gain from this experience as well. So it's really been cool, and really enjoying it. But it's almost time. I mean, I still got a little bit longer, but it's almost time for me to hang up my boots out here and head back home. But thank you for sticking around. If you enjoyed this, please hit the like button, subscribe, and if you want to see any other episodes when they come up, and I will be doing these at least once a week, then go ahead and hit that notification bell, and you'll be one of the first to know that it's coming, it's there. So thanks again, and Shabbat Shalom.